Greetings ladies and gentlemen, this is Lord Mon, and in today's Hearthstone tutorial I'll be taking you through the Mage class, and helping you find out if the Mage is the right class for you. Okay, a couple of things about the Mage. What does it do? A Mage excels at controlling the battlefield with spells, and making your enemy's day a bit worse with other spells. But some problems that the Mage runs into are some relatively weak minions, lack of taunt, and other creature abilities. You'd think that would be a pretty huge flaw, but there's a whole bunch of really good neutral minions that you can chuck into your deck to fill those spots. The main reason you're playing the Mage is because you love what spells they have and the amount of control that they give you. If you play the Mage deck correctly, you'll counter everything your opponent can do and leave them frustrated and cardless, which leads to a very quick and easy victory. Alright, so first things first. What is the Mage's hero power? So, Mage's hero power, as you can see, is called Fire Blast. It costs 2 mana and deals 1 damage. Now this is targeted damage that can go to any one place. So you can pick the enemy hero, an enemy minion, your own minions, or I'm pretty sure yourself, but I don't know why you would target yourself with this. There is some logic at targeting your own minions. But yeah, you can use this to deal with enemy creatures that just survived on 1 health, or if your enemy survived on just 1 health, you can use it to finish the game. So this is a really good power. It's very, very, very versatile. And yeah, you will find yourself using it in more and more ways as you become more comfortable with using the Mage. So I'm going to talk about some of my favourite Mage spells. I probably don't have time to talk about all of them, but I'll talk about my favourite ones. So one of my favourite ones here is Mirror Image. Costs 1, summons 2/0/2 minions with taunt. So this is an exception to the rule that mages don't really get much taunt. This is really cheap and really, really good. Played on the first turn, it will hold off your enemy minions for more than a little while. They'll have to break through 2 taunt minions, and if you play it late game, you can hold up a big scary creature with 10 attacks, provided it's the only creature, for 2 turns, basically, for a 1-cost card. So that's pretty darn fantastic. My other one, Arcane Explosion, deals 1 damage to all enemy minions. So for 2 cost, this can deal with a huge swarm wave. If the enemy plays heaps of 2/1 minions in 1 turn, this can clear them all out and net you a huge card advantage. Now this is a card that a lot of other decks sort of struggle to match, especially for this cheap cost. So this is definitely one of my favourite cards. I really, really like it, and it's one of the things that drew me to the Mage. Frostbolt. It's another pretty solid card, cheap cost, deals 3 damage to an enemy character and freezes it, which means the enemy character can't attack you next turn. So if they got that big scary 10/10, just freeze it, and yeah, hope you draw a spell that deals with it next turn, or just ignore it. Freeze it a couple more times and go for game. Arcane Instinct, straight up draw 2 cards for 3. You cannot argue with that. It's really good, really efficient. I won't get into secrets. Fireball's another one, it's a common one, you start with it. 4 to do 6 damage, so you can deal with any big enemy creatures that they play. To a degree. Obviously they can't have more than 6 health, but yeah, they play a big creature, you fireball it. They probably get a little bit angry. But if the fireball doesn't work, then the polymorph will. This can tear down any creature no matter how big they are, transforms them into a 1/1 sheep. So they can be a 20/20 creature and bam, 1/1 sheep. Whatever you use to make the creature that big, you just wasted all of it. This is a really key Mage spell and pretty well emphasizes what mages are about. Punishing the opponent for using too many cards at once, basically. So I do like Polymorph. The amount of times where you want to use it over Fireball, it does vary. You'll see if you need more Polymorphs or more Fireballs. You can always just run 2 or both. But yeah, I'm finding that the Fireball tends to be good enough, especially in the deck that I run, to deal with enemy big creatures, but I do really like Polymorph. Another couple, Blizzard. deals 2 damage to all enemy minions and freezes them. So this is both an anti-swarm and anti-big guy. If they manage to summon a bunch of big, high damage creatures, This will give you a turn's breathing space, and hopefully the 2 damage will weaken them so your other spells can deal with them. Pretty good spell. Flame Strike. This is like the ultimate mage spell. Deals 4 damage to all enemy minions. This can quickly get out of hand and just deal with all your enemy's minions. Just clear their board, destroy a whole bunch of cards, and leave you with a huge card advantage. This is the game changer right here. 7 costs, so you know, it's more late game, but late game is when you want to use it. You don't want to be destroying 1 health things, you want to be destroying 4 health things with this. So those are the basic mage powers. I will get through to another couple in a little bit, but I want to go through some neutral cards and how they benefit your deck. Now, there are lots of neutral cards in the game, obviously. The ones that you are looking for, or the ones that I look for, are ones with an ability called Spell Power. So, to save for a bit of looking, I'll flick through some. Here's one. So, spell damage. Now what spell damage does, increases the damage of your cast spell by 1. Doesn't sound like a lot at the start, but this quickly adds up and becomes huge. That, you know, he's pretty cheap, 2, 2, 2, so that's, you know, that's alright. And spell damage plus 1 is really good. I'll show you why. So let's say I have my Arcane Explosion. I'll just find it over here to make it big for you. So it normally deals 1 damage to all enemy minions. If I have one of those kobolds out, now it's doing 2 damage to all enemy minions. If I have 2 kobolds out, that's 3 damage. So that's like casting this spell 3 times for the same cost of 2. And that can really quickly start clearing out whole enemy waves. It's not impossible for you to get this up to 4, which means it's just like your Flame Storm, which is a 7 cost spell. This is a 2 cost spell doing 4 damage to all enemy minions, and if you play your Flame Storm, it's going to get rid of everything. So I really like Spell Power, and if you're not sure what creatures to put in your deck, put some Spell Power in. So there are quite a few Spell Power cards. Kobold Geomancer. There is one that I don't use, the Dalaran Mage. I kind of cut him because I didn't have that much room. He's a really good card if you got room for him. Chuck him in, extra spell damage. And where is the Ogre Magi? Ogre Magi, just more +1 spell damage, and he's actually got 4 attack and 4 health. So he's really good. 1 more cost than the Dalaran Mage and gains 3 attack, so I really like him. Other things, Shieldmaster. Basically, mages don't have a lot of taunt, and this is a fantastic taunt creature, one of the best. Probably play him in any deck really, but in mages you don't have a lot of taunt, so you don't have a lot of options. So Spell Power is pretty handy. This is a card you don't start with. Basically 4, 3, 5. Whenever you cast a spell you get a 1/1 apprentice, so this is really good for swarming the field with little things, which mages don't tend to really swarm. This solves that. Again, whether it suits your tastes is up to you, but I think it's pretty cool. I'm experimenting with it. I just got it recently, so it is good fun. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is Mage Power targeting your own minions. Why would you want to do that? Because there are certain minions with the Enrage ability. So Enrage is when it takes damage, it gains this next set of abilities. Alright, so this is a 3/3 for 3. And it's got Enraged. Gains Wind Fury, which is it attacks twice, and +1 attack. Now sometimes there's a bit of a problem getting this damaged but not killed. It's definitely not the worst enraged creature for taking damage, like you can run it into a creature with 1 attack and then get the Wind Fury and attack something else. But if your enemy doesn't have any taunt, you can fireball this creature and attack them twice for a total of 8 damage if you're attacking them directly. So that's one of the uses of fireballs. But it gets a lot bigger in scale when you use this guy. So whenever he takes damage, gain 3 attacks. So normally in other decks, you'll have to have this guy hit a few weak creatures to pump himself up and then hit the enemy. But you can shoot a little fireball at this guy each turn and do heaps and heaps of direct damage. You can also obviously tear down the enemy minions with it. But yeah, the mage just facilitates this really good. He gets high attack before he loses too much health. If you run him into, you know, a 3 or a 4 attack creature just to get this effect happening, then yeah, you're not getting the most out of him, but he's a really good card, and yeah, it's a surprise in mages. Another hiding spell damage, Archmage. 6, 4, 7. So he's surprisingly good in combat, +1 spell damage. So that's fantastic. That tends to be the most of the neutral cards that I would grab. Grabbing some taunt is pretty good because mages don't have a lot of taunt. But those are the sort of creatures you are looking for. Now, I would like to talk to you about a couple more cards that I don't actually own yet. So I'll go into crafting. Mana Worm. Now this is a fantastic creature, kind of the exception to, you know, mages get weak creatures unless their creatures sort of buff your spells. So he's 1, 1, and 3, and whenever you cast a spell, he gains +1 attack. This creature, for a 1 cost, can get out of hand really quickly. If you cast a bunch of cheap spells, this attack's just going to keep going up. It does stay there, and it can force your opponent to use a big card that costs a lot more than 1 to deal with it, which is a win in itself. And this thing can get surprisingly big and do a lot of damage if your opponent doesn't deal with it. Really great value for 1. Yeah, I'm just hoping that I pull one. Sorcerer's Apprentice, 2, 3, 2. Spells cost 1 less to play, so this is every spell you play in the turn. So this can really mess up your opponent's calculations and let you play a lot more spells than they thought you could. This sort of combos up with the Mana Worm to let you play a whole bunch of spells really quickly, so that's really, really good. Mages also get some good secrets. I'm not going to go into secrets a huge amount, but this is one example. So you pay the 3 cost, it sits on your character till your opponent fulfills the criteria. When they play a minion, summon a copy of it. So if you've dealt with all their little swarm things through any manner of spells, and it's late game, and you know they've only got big things, or you take a fair guess that they've only got big things, this mirror entity for 3 makes a clone of it, pretty much shuts it down, especially if you can fireball that minion before it hits you, then you've just got a huge minion for free. Well, for 3. So if they play something that costs, I don't know, 9 or 10, like a legend, you can steal it, then polymorph their legend next turn, and then you got a legend. So yeah, that's pretty good, really. But the things that I really wanted to talk about in this construction page was the legendaries that the mage gets. But Pyroblast is worth an honourable mention. Does what it says on the label. It's just 10 damage for 10 mana. You can drop this damage, drop the cost and buff the damage through, you know, spell damage and stuff. So it's another fireball. It's more of a late game fireball. There's not much that can survive that. And if your opponent's looking a little bit worse for wear, drop a couple of Pyroblasts. It's a really easy way to win the game, especially if they've got a whole bunch of creatures or a whole bunch of taunt and you just can't break through it. Drop some Pyroblasts on their character and just win the game. Really threatening card, can cause opponents to panic when they have low health, which they should be doing, and there's not all that much they can do to stop it apart from destroying you before you play the Pyroblast. Now onto the couple of legends I think that mages really like. So there is their in-house legend, Archmage Antonidas, I think I pronounced that right. Whenever you cast a spell, put a fireball spell into your hand. So that is the 4 cost 6 damage spell. And I do believe playing that spell will generate another fireball. So with a little bit of spell damage, or even without extra spell damage, this can quickly get out of hand. You can be chucking 6 damage, or 7 damage, or 8 damage, depending on how many like kobolds or ogre magi you have. And yeah, just clear the enemy field, or if they don't have any creatures, just keep throwing fireballs at the enemy. This guy can really get out of hand. I suggest if you play him, try play him alongside a couple of like 1-cost spells, so even if your enemy kills him next turn, you have a couple extra fireballs. Because fireballs are amazing, and this guy makes more of them. So he's really, really good. And he synergizes with the other legend that I want to talk about, who is a neutral legend, but I think he does really... well, he or she, I'm not sure which gender it is. Where are you? There you are. Malagos. So it's a he. Malagos, 9 cost, 4 attack, 12 damage, spell damage plus 5. That's the only thing with spell damage plus 5 that I know of, and it can make anything insane. Like, think of your spells that do like 1 damage to all enemy minions. Now they're doing 6 damage to all enemy minions. This is huge. I really want one. It's huge. Your fireballs are doing 11 damage for 4 mana. Like, yeah, and if you get both of those legends out and your opponent can't deal with it, you're just getting 11 damage fireballs each turn. You can probably cast 2 of them pretty safely. So what, that's 22 damage a turn that you can deal out indirectly, that your opponent can't taunt or anything. So that's huge. Those two legends are really something to aspire to. So that is a general idea of the power of the mage. So don't feel too bad that your creatures aren't necessarily up to par with everyone else's. No, you can, still use neutral creatures. Yeah, so that is a brief overview of the mage, and now I'm going to try a game with them and hopefully not fail utterly. So, where is my mage? Where's casual? So yeah, I really like the mage. Yeah, seems to suit my playstyle really well. I do love controlling the board. I do love having answers to big scary enemy monsters. Because nothing's worse than them playing a big creature and you being like, I have nothing that I can do here at all. The other thing, I got tired of versing swarm decks, and with the right cards, like there's a lot of cards which are the right cards, the mage can just shut down swarm.
I must protect the wild.
You asked for
So 2 Violet Teachers. This isn't really that good early game, like any of it. So I'm going to keep the Shield Master because mages do need taunt, and I don't necessarily have the most taunt in the world. So I got my Cobalt, got my Fireball, so I can set up a little bit of a damage combo here. I got first turn, which, I didn't really want or need, but, Alright, so I got 2 options here. He didn't play anything, so I'm going to risk the Cobalt Geomancer. Why not? Let's get some presence on the field. You probably can't deal with it this turn, and if he chucks a whole bunch of spells and stuff on it, then I'm fine with that. So he's just gaining some extra mana. So look, cool thing that this does, you hover over your Cobalt and it'll highlight which spells its amplification effects. So you can see the adjusted number there on the card as well, so that card just got a little bit more dangerous. He didn't actually do all that much, so I'm just going to play my Mirror Image to just try use all my mana. There's nothing wrong with having taunts on the field, and I'll just attack him directly. So now I've got a 7 damage Fireball, so that can deal with a lot of his crazy plays. Up to, turn 8, it can nearly deal with some of his big, 8 health taunt creatures. So this is the sort of control that you can rely on. He can spend 8 mana on a creature, I can just blow it away. So, okay, Starfall is really annoying. But, I didn't really lose all that much for getting rid of his Starfall. Ogre Mage, in case he manages to summon one of his big crazy taunt creatures. So yeah, having a bunch of spell damage is pretty good because your opponent will really try get rid of it. So you want to be able to replace it. Are you playing a Legends deck? I fear they might be playing a Legends deck. Whoops. Shouldn't have done that. Oh well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're playing a Legends deck, unless Harrison Jones is literally the only card they had to play, which in this case means I have to play quick. Yeah?
None.
They're playing, they've got a bunch of Legends. So this is pretty cool. I haven't versed Legends before, so this might not go too well for me. So I am going to try and go into a bit of damage control here. I can just Fireball that down, and I might, honestly, but I can't risk them getting too much momentum. So this, if this is a Legends deck, then this is not typical, right? It is a Legends deck.
well played.
Of course, you had to sort of mess up my tutorial with your cheesy Legends deck. Oh, if I had spell damage, then this would kill Leroy. As it stands, I'm going to use my power, and I'm going to use Frostbolt.
My thanks to you.
Yeah, I think that's the good play. Yeah, so using all my powers to deal with his craziness. And now I'm really on a clock. It's late game, I haven't managed to do all that much damage to him. So this is crunch time against the legend. Mage deck can do well against the legend deck, but unfortunately, I do not have my polymorphs. I think I took them out because I was just running out of room, wanted to try new cards. This is definitely a legends deck. That is potentially nasty. I'll save that for turn 9 because I know a lot of big legends are 9. I could just Flame Strike Hogger, which would get rid of him. Or I can rely on Ragnaros the File. So Ragnaros, yeah, it's a little bit of a gamble, but let's see what happens. Let's try not to lose too much initiative. Come on, shoot anyone. Okay, so I shot Hogger. So knowing a Legends deck, that's probably his only taunt. Oh, I completely forgot that he has extra mana. Okay, that's not too bad. So, you know, less than ideal, but that's not too bad. So, hope he doesn't realize what this is. And I'm going to Frostbolt you. Attack you directly. And I'm going to keep my spell in case there's a big creature that I can't deal with. Or maybe I'm going to use it to nuke him down a bit. So, he still definitely has momentum. Oh, that sucks. But that has spell damage. So that's not the worst thing in the world. But you're going to play something big, aren't you?
I dream and the world trembles.
Yep. That's pretty dangerous. So what, they'll do 8 damage. I can charge it down. Might be the play here. Can't let him get too many dream cards. And my dragon does sort of survive that. Okay, I got a flame strike. Cool. Not super good against the legendary deck, unfortunately. I'm just gonna have to hope that they don't have too many options. But a legendary deck always has options.
Behold my mighty invention.
Alright, that's annoying. Now I can clear his field and do 9 more damage, which leaves him dangerously low. Wondering if that's the good play. I'm thinking it might be. Now there's a pretty big number of cards I can potentially draw into to just finish this game. And if I win, then that is a prime example. There we go. So I had no idea I was coming up against the Legendaries deck. But that is a prime example of how adaptive the Mage can be. And if you are careful with your spells, then yeah, you're not in too much trouble. As you can see, I was outstrengthed by some of his huge creatures. He dealt me a couple of blows. But in the end, I was fine. So that is how the Mage typically plays. Lots of control. Good creatures that buff your spellcasting ability, and your spells will carry you through the day, just know when to use them. So I hope that's given you a pretty good idea of how the Mage works. And until next time, I'm Lord Mon, and thank you for watching. Bye!